Pat,
Ty,
how you doing?
I'm good, bud. How are you? What's
I'm
happening
good.
tonight?
Well, we have an exciting podcast guest.
Don't we always?
We do always.
Okay.
But this is Billy Moulden, William Moulden. He is a career educator,
Yep.
a military background, and I am excited to interview him. He ran the Sherwood Forest camp, which is the camp that our kids all went to. We grew up in. My mother and grandmother even went to, and
Right.
he was director there for a long time. And before he was director, he rejuvenated the nature program.
Totally.
But one of my favorite things is he's had a career in education. He was my older son Ryan's first boss,
Okay.
and Ryan was a camp counselor. And this is one of those stories where I don't know if he said it to the group or to just Ryan, but let's say he gave it to just Ryan because the legend is better than the truth.
Always,
So
especially on this podcast.
Ryan was taking care of a group. There was a kid who maybe was difficult. A young kid, like 10 years old, was difficult. And Ryan had to tell Billy about it. And Billy said, "You know what, Ryan? The world needs Patrick Henrys." So it wasn't that he wasn't going to discipline the kid. He just meant, hey, don't give up on this kid quite yet. And I know some people in my life who maybe didn't follow directions too well when they were young, had trouble sitting still, and sometimes they become famous podcasters.
You know what? Maybe we should call this the most
Yes,
improved award winners.
yes,
Uh, yeah. No, I've heard of those kind of diamonds in the rough, and I am a walking, living example of such.
yes.
Um,
So
but
I'm
yeah, so I'm your Patrick Henry. Is that what you're saying?
well. I think you're a Patrick Henry. I think I might have had Patrick Henry moments.
You did. You've
I
definitely had
think I've
moments.
raised a Patrick Henry or two back in my day. But I am interested in hearing his thoughts on just education in general and a career in kids, and also maybe get into a little bit military and military pride and all those things.
Love it. No, I think Billy Mullins will be great to talk to because he is a well-rounded gentleman, and he's waiting to come on in. So let's
And we
invite
will see
Billy
where
in.
it goes. So here's Billy.
Amen. Excellent.
Hello again to House Calls the podcast. And like I said, tonight we got Billy Moulden with us. And Billy, we mentioned that you were a career educator. You were a longtime nature director and then camp director, and you have a military background. So that and a love of the outdoors. So that's a lot to cover. So
Mhm.
where are you now?
Right now, I'm in my cottage in the family room.
Okay. And then we need to know, like, where did your story start? So I want to go all the way back to when you were a kid. When did these interests develop so that we can find out more about you? Because we just kind of knew you when you were already developed. So where did this all come from?
Yeah, we saw we saw the after picture. We didn't
Yeah.
never saw the before.
Yeah. Well, I was born and raised in Baltimore on Keswick Road in 39th, across from the Rotunda, which at that time was Maryland Casualty. And I'm a baby boomer, and there were tons of boys to play with all around the same age. And our playgrounds were the Maryland Casualty grounds, which were just huge expanses of outdoor space. And then there was Wyman Park, which was 2 blocks away. And then the biggest playground of them all was Johns Hopkins University. And in those days, the 60s, you were welcome to come in and out of the classrooms, the labs, and
Oh,
it's from those experiences that I, was developed a love of science, the outdoors. Uh, my brother and I, and all of our kids, basically, if it was the weekend, we weren't coming home until it was night, which was the rule, and just basically outdoors. And then there was Sherwood Summers. I was a 1958 playgrounder, did the full tour camp. Uh, and then as I got past like 10, 11 years old, we had a little runabout. And if I had gas money, I was on the river. And I can even feel it right now wash over me. The just the freedom of being off the leash. And it is a love in the best sense of the word.
Back to Hamden, were the Christmas lights on 34th Street, was that during your time? Or was that, I don't know how long ago that started.
No, that one during my time was like Memorial Day.
Yep.
I can remember coming up Keswick Road, and you are in a cavern of American flags. The patriotism uh, in all of Baltimore was extraordinary. Um, and then I went to Roland Park Public kindergarten through ninth grade, and then on to Poly until we moved to Sherwood, and I finished out at Annapolis High.
Wow. What a magical time in Baltimore. Again, my frame of reference are Barry Levinson movies.
And because it was safe, there could be 5 or 6 guys. We get on the bus for a dime and ride downtown and
Oh.
go through the arcades, and then when schools were integrated, we all got a bus pass, and then we could ride for free. And the city was our oyster.
So when did you get the interest in like the land of the kind of the Chesapeake Bay region, not just the history, but kind of the geology and that side, the science of it?
Well, even though I was a grade school teacher for 44 years, and then also a little middle school, um, and then adults where I taught Army classes, but um, basically I was oriented to math and science, and I was a passionate, inspirational teacher. And so, if you're going to do anything well, you need to become a subject matter expert. And so I just became, interested in learning about everything, particularly in the natural sciences. And then I had that when I taught in Kansas. And then when we moved to Sherwood in 1988, to raise our kids. Um, Basically, the river, the look, the smell of it, the feel of it. Um, I just ended up, learning more and more. And then I joined the Severn River Association and became the treasurer, the vice president, 2-term president. And it was there and then on the Severn River Commission that I got a real education on not only the conservation of the bay, but the politics of who gets what. And I was very entrepreneurial and competitive in seeing that our corner of the bay um, was going to receive grants for restoration and conservation. And then being nature director with the camp, when I like hands-on, minds-on activities. I love adventure training. That to me is a key in the development of a child of structuring things that build confidence, to where you take a dare and now you've got a true river kid who can jump off the boat in the water without hesitation. Um, and then also to be able to open the river up to where up and down the river, whether you're a private island like St. Helena's or a military installation, I got to know everybody, and you could just have these extraordinary experiences, and you just kind of grow into it. Um, and I just love to excel in the things that are meaningful to me,
Yeah,
which primarily is Sherwood and its children.
that's very obvious. But back up. So you graduate from Annapolis High. Where do you go next? Do you go to college? Do you go right to the Army or?
No, I drew a 600-mile perimeter around my house that I wasn't coming home for Thanksgiving, and or my parents were going to be making casual visits, to college. So I ended up at a small Methodist university in Kansas, Baker University, and basically joined Delta Tau Delta fraternity, which was like the football house, and met my wife Barb there, who was an Alpha Chi, and so it was from Annapolis High to Baker University,
Got it.
and then from Baker, I student taught at a grade school in Olathe, Kansas, and ended up taking a job there. Was a teacher there for 11 years until our oldest son, Bobby Moulden, was born. And while I never thought I would ever come back to Sherwood, the moment I transitioned to parent and provider, there was no place other that I would rather raise my children. And so one miracle happened after another, and we ended up selling our house in Kansas and buying a house on Nottingham. And
There you go.
it was the best decision that Barb and I ever made.
So I know Ty's gonna let me ask you one question for Ty. Did you play football in college, or are you just in the
Wow.
okay? All right.
I was I think it was the second week of football practice. I was a slot back, which basically all of my jobs, I think there were two plays where I could catch a ball, but I was blocking.
Okay.
My knee was broken by a defensive end, and after a surgery, I was out of football,
Got it.
and I wasn't, I could take a beating and I could set a block, but as far as speed or I was not an elite athlete.
Got it. And as much as you're comfortable with it, what was your thought process that you didn't want to come back to Sherwood?
It was because I was, had a life in Olathe, Kansas, and
Okay.
but even though Kansas has sunsets, raising a kid there is going to be, summer baseball and a public pool patch, and it's
Right.
not going to be uh, everything that Sherwood would proffer.
Fair.
My question was actually going to be in the intro. I told a story that when my older son Ryan worked for you as a counselor, he had, I guess, a issue with a your standard kind of rebellious kid, and he brought him to you, and you took care of the situation and disciplined the kid. But you told him, you said, Ryan, the world needs Patrick Henrys. And Ryan came home and told me that story, and it's always stuck with me that
Yes.
some of these kids are going to grow up great. And my question for you is, when you were a kid running around the Severn River, when you were running around Roland Park and Hamden, were you a Patrick Henry or were you an angel?
No, I was definitely a Patrick Henry.
Okay.
If I was, if an adult had a line of sight on me, I'm going to be very polite, very social. But if there was no external regulation, who knows what I might do.
Eddie
Okay.
Haskell, meet Eddie Haskell. Yep, you and I are one and the same. I've got it. I've got it.
But it's not going to be, over the top like you see what some people are doing on the streets today.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's going to be, I would be a wild child.
And how as a elementary school teacher with a love for the outdoors, how do you feel about just like kids being in class all day, like studying for the test now? Is that hard for you, or was it hard for you to handle that?
I would be accommodating, to where, you're not going to be in your seat, uh, at least in my classes, I'm going to be pacing to the pace of a child. And so you're going to break things up, even though you may have 1 hour of reading. It's not going to be the same thing. It's not going to be sedentary, if I'm saying that word right. And it's you're going to have to put some, you know, inspiration into the lesson, and
Right.
I would give breaks, to where you can get up and move around, and then also I'm going to be structuring the lesson to where uh, it's exciting, to where you want to do it. And so,
Yeah.
and
Well,
I'm,
I think somewhere right now, my parents are hearing this and they're like, God, why wasn't Billy Matthews' teacher at some point? It'd been so much easier for all of us.
well, I know
But
Prince George's County, I typically would get the toughest kids because I do my best work with them, and I can turn you. So if you are, even if the government has labeled you emotionally disturbed, I I could make you uh I mean a academic razor that you
hey,
can do it better and
Billy,
better.
that's your work with grade schoolers. How about people that are in their mid to late 50s? What's your track record there? Asking for a friend.
Well, the oldest said, I've done art. I was a military intelligence analyst instructor for when I was stop lost with the Army for a couple of years, and yeah, I can motivate people, and I can have bring a contagion to the room, to
All right,
where
we'll talk offline. I got a
yeah,
couple ideas. I
Well,
but
got a
the
couple ideas.
tell us about the military. Like, how old were you when you got into the military, and how did that come about?
that was 1983. I had started teaching in 77, and I did the math on my retirement, and it looked like you're going to be able to get by if you don't get sick. And so I decided, well, I'm going to join, the Army. And I was an intelligence analyst with the basic, then went to the Intel school, and then the unit I started off with, I thought, if we're ever deployed, we're all going to get killed because people are just too slack. And then at the same facility, there was a special forces unit. So when I went over there to interview, you special forces is like the NFL. You 25 years old is, that would be the end of your prime, to pass that school. And I think at the time I was 28. So they were a little leery about that. But they said, that they would send me to the school. And then if I failed anything, you at the John F. Kennedy Warfare Center at Fort Bragg, you can have a recycle or one repeat, but that wasn't, for me, it was just do and die. So
Right.
I went to airborne school, and then the first phase of special forces training is the school is set up to fail you. So and I must have lost 20 pounds. I must have had 30 blisters all over my feet coming out of that first phase, and it was something. But I ended up passing. I served 11 years with Special Forces, um, and then when they after the Gulf War One, where reserve Special Forces were just too slow to get into be combat ready, I transferred to an intelligence unit that supported Arabic interrogators.
Wow. So were you married when you enlisted?
Yes,
Okay.
I was married, and then I would go away for these schools and come back. And
Right.
Barb, my wife, was tolerant of it, and so when I graduated from Special Forces school, it was you know quite an achievement,
Yeah.
in my mind. And the real benefit today is it re-zeroes you on what a bad day is. And so,
Right.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
You've seen them, but
you're
What
young.
from your upbringing
but
helped you make it through a school that tough at the age, which was a little bit
dude,
older than other
have
people?
you ever been to Hamden and you can't get a slice of pizza at Bella Roma? Have you ever seen that? That's not. I mean, that's not for the lighthearted. Come on.
Yeah. I was always had a tenacious spirit, never quit, never die, never get up. You know, uh, if you're going to be defeated, you're going to die hard, leave everything on the field. And I think those ethics are with you as well. Just you're just not going to quit. And then if the thought enters your mind, you crush it immediately, so it doesn't take root. So it was just basically that. Plus, in my generation, virtually all the dads were, World War II veterans.
Right. Was
And all,
yours?
no, he missed it by a couple of years. Um,
But that's a pretty big leap to go from teaching school to say, "Hey, I need to secure my retirement and my future. I'm
yeah,
going into the army."
yeah,
Right? Instead of going to mass casualty and becoming an insurance agent or something like that, you went pretty extreme. Was there, I mean, there's had to be something more. And Ty and I do have security clearances. So you can share whatever you want about any of your missions
yeah.
as well.
Well, I think I wanted to be around guys, a fraternity, to where, you're a man's man, and, uh, I like that culture, uh,
Right?
and, I'm, comfortable in it. And,
Right.
I think there was that aspect too.
Yeah, but did you have any role models at this stage, that had, gone into the army, gone special for or military? Your father
Yeah.
missed it. I mean, was there
Right.
someone that was kinda showing you the
Well, I
path?
remember, stories from, I don't know if you remember Mr. Peabody. He was a Marine at Tarawa, and he would never talk about the war. And there was a poker game that I was overhearing, and they finally, talked him into it. He talked about the beach landing and about how right before they drop the front door, you strip off all your equipment and jump over the side because all the Japanese machine gunners have already sighted these targets, and they just slaughter everybody once that gate goes down. And then somebody asked him, and this was the takeaway, well, if you've thrown your equipment and your rifle away, uh, what are you going to fight with? And he looks on deadpanned and says, there's always one to pick up on the beach.
Oh my gosh.
And I
Okay,
was
Wow.
going, dang.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Ty, your dad, as a special forces officer, uh, he was in the Central Highlands. Would not even, at Docto. Uh,
Uh-huh.
I mean, he is a stud muffin. And then to extend to another tour to finish a hospital for the Mountain Yards, he's your dad's legendary. And so
It's fact.
Yeah,
I
it's very cool.
yeah,
Yeah, and when his story was always when he got out of, I guess, his general surgery internship to join the military, he thought his best chance of survival was to be as prepared as possible, and so he
yeah,
joined the special forces, kinda the same thing you're saying.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
thought that was fascinating. Like, some people are like, "Man, if I'm going, I'm gonna be as trained
yeah,
as possible."
yeah. But in the Central Highlands, he was in a dangerous place. And I saw the podcast you did with Russ Gardner, and
Uh-huh. Yeah.
he had where even though Russ downplayed his duty as
Yes.
being way dangerous, uh, for him to say that Butch House's was even hairier, that's saying something.
Yeah. Now, did you have to go overseas, like, in the '80s and '90s? And I guess you might not be able to talk about anything you did because it's not in the newspapers?
Um, Typically, I remember training with coalition forces with Germans, Canadians,
Uh-huh.
and we would do exercises. The only real service I did for my country or our country was right after 9/11, where I'm Special Forces qualified and also the intel analyst with 6 years experience for Arabic interrogators.
Okay.
So I was gone right away. And then I didn't really believe I was in danger because I worked in a skiff, which is like a vault, doing targeting on Al Qaeda and Taliban. And it turned out that I could did it really well, and I was decorated 4 times for actions against the enemy. And but I don't believe I was ever in any real danger just because I was so protected. And I could have one Sherwood story. Sherwood kids would send me stuff. I like Peter Pan soft peanut butter, and they'd send me these magazines. And I had enough of a stressful job where even though I'm trying to find the enemy, they're also the flip side of that coin is force protection of what's coming our way. And so I could where you have the pieces that something bad's about to happen, but you don't have the whole thing. You just have like a corner of the puzzle. And I can remember where going back to a warehouse, which was where we were billeted, I would like vibrate. It's like a not like a shiver, it's like at a 2, 3 times the frequency, like a micro vibration. But this one of the Sherwood kids sent me a magazine, Archaeology Today, and it had King Tut on the cover. And I opened it up, why they would send it to me. But beginning on page 6, they had this the clay pot trade in Afghanistan, to where you had these black market smugglers basically marketing the lesson museum level stuff. However, this guy that I was looking for, and I was just, I mean, this close of finding him to where we would operationalize a mission against him. And for the purposes of this, we'll just call him Muhammad Muhammad. And I realized that all of my intel, because we were really basing it on his INSAT or his sat phone, that it wasn't the guy I wanted. It's just this clay pot dealer.
No.
And it was just a revelation of like, oh, I guess there's more than one Joe Smith, in
Yeah.
Afghanistan.
A
Yeah.
couple Muhammad Muhammads out there. Who
And it
knew?
must have been like 3 in the morning. So I got my uniform back on, went up to the skiff, and physically pulled his target folder off the the deck that he was about to, take a missile. And it was all because of this Sherwood girl that sent me that magazine.
Oh wow.
Little does he know that that little
Yeah.
girl saved his life.
Wow.
So
Katie Smith saves the day once
yeah.
again. That's amazing.
So in that time of 9/11, and this is a question I have about intelligence, is I was at the University of Louisville doing a hand surgery fellowship, and it was an international fellowship. So there were 26 of us, and I was actually in a surgery for 8 hours on 9/11. So like
Wow.
I was just hearing what was going on from the nurses who were looking at the news. And at the time, the sidebar is that we were expecting mass hand and upper extremity casualties to come to Louisville. Like that's where they were designated to come. But the next day, all the fellows who spoke Farsi got calls, I guess from the State Department or wherever, and they were told that they were being recruited to help with intelligence. And I never knew. I was like, maybe you're being recruited for intelligence, but they might be making sure you're not a terrorist also. Like, and I always wondered, how do you find these people?
Right. Well, in the case that you're citing, they probably would have vetted them, uh,
Uh-huh.
particularly if they were not American.
Yeah, no, these were not Americans. They were from Iran and Iraq and different Middle Eastern countries, but were in the United States under a student visa.
Yeah.
Usually they were professors in their country in hand surgery
Right.
who were coming to America to become tenured faculty.
Yeah.
And they all got phone calls the next day.
Right. And then of that group, did they come back to the hospital?
Oh yeah, they all stayed. They all stayed
Yeah.
on the call
Yeah.
schedule. I had
We
3 little kids. I would have noticed if I had to take more call.
Yeah.
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 All
We
right.
couldn't find him on September 13th. We
Yeah.
never saw those guys again. I don't know what happened.
I would imagine they were vetted. I would imagine they were also because when you're talking about a native speaker who can read and write that language, once you start offensive operations, um, whether it's in an interrogation of a high value individual or just the documents you're going to collect at a, let's say you go through the door of a terrorist safe house. It really makes a difference, between a native speaker um, and because they can hear in a person's voice, um, what they are feeling, to where a basic person with linguist skills is going to miss that.
Billy, with everything that you've done in your career, that how do you go from this stressful job, people, lives in your hand, to teaching kids back at school, and then walking through the forest and pointing out different trees and turtles? But I also see your discipline for your life, but in how you share that with others around you. And I definitely can see how that's a comforting feeling for
Yeah.
you. But that must have been a major shift.
Yeah. Well, I know when I came home, I had to spend like 30 days at Fort Gordon, just to make sure you decompress.
Yeah.
And then when I came back to Sherwood, I loved it because you don't have that stress anymore. Lives are at not stake. And I actually came home, and I think it was the end of 2002, and there was an adult party at the pool, and I can remember coming in, and where we were, you weren't allowed to have a beer or wine or drink of any kind. So being able to have beer again was a real treat. And I think the only thing that was weird is I remember standing the next day on the store porch, and I saw a stranger like driving by, and I remember reaching down for my weapon, and it wasn't safe that I didn't have a weapon. Like, I didn't have
Right.
an assault rifle, and I felt like I wasn't safe. I was, like, naked.
Vulnerable.
Yeah,
Wow.
and so, but that's gone away. Um,
Good.
and my favorite quote. This was before the war. This was James Fitzgerald, Jr. He was a junior at the time, and I was the nature director, and he was telling these other junior boys that Mr. Moulden was a Green Beret. And one of the boys says, "What's a Green Beret?" And I swear James said this. "Oh, that's a Peace Corps worker who can shoot straight."
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah. And
Did
so
you put him in like an arm lock, like a headlock, and like
now,
basically choke him out?
what I did was I shared that quote, that story for the next 4 years, and at my unit, and it never got old.
It's funny though, is about the special forces and the Green Berets is the pop culture of the late 70s and 80s. It seemed like all the movies were about special, whether it's Chuck Norris or Rambo or whatever, they were all Green Beret special forces.
Yeah.
So James was not watching enough movies.
Yes. Yes. So that is now transitioned to SEALs.
Yes,
Yeah.
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 SEALs have the attention now.
You make the decision to get involved into the nature program, you're obviously pretty busy. Are you kind of like active duty and then reserves when it's not wartime, and then you're teaching during the winter? Like how did your time
Yeah.
look?
Well, full-time job would have been teaching.
Mhm.
And then I would do a weekend a month with the 11th Special Forces Group, which was at Fort Meade, was a reserve Special Forces group. So I would do the weekend a month, and then typically when most units would go to their annual training for 2 weeks, I would be going, to special forces schools, and that could be for like a month. It would be different. So it could be like my favorite was the Russian tank school, to where in my special forces specialty on weapons, I'm expected to be an expert on anything from a pistol up to a heavy mortar, and then also to be able to drive any of the enemy stuff. So I would go up to the Aberdeen Proving Ground and be hot rodding on T-72, T-64,
Oh,
BTRs, BPM, and that was one of the more fun parts of the special
sure.
forces training. Um, and then or cross training with the SAS in England. Um, and you're with elite units, and it's you just I like that level, and just there is an adventure to it.
So you are training on all these things, learning. Are you teaching some of these courses also?
Well, I was the land navigation instructor for Fort Meade, when I
Okay.
was there. So, from that interest, you get byproducts like in the Sherwood Forest nature program. I'm going to invent the Sherwood Forest qualification course, which mirrors the Special Forces qualification course. It starts with the half-mile swim, but the land navigation part, for when I was a nature director, you're getting world-class instruction on how to find your way around the woods. And then also the topographical map that you have in the boardroom.
Mhm.
That was something that I arranged to have made, which is hyper accurate, meaning that um, if you look at that map at where the volleyball fields are, and we used to have two nets there, if you look close, you'll see a worn spot under the net we use. Or the telephone poles in the outer forest. It's not the symbol for telephone pole, it's the exact location of it. And
Wow.
and then the coloration of the map of where you can run through the woods, and then when it gets a little hairier, and then all the Indian archaeological sites are mapped there. Um,
Do
and
we
the,
have what's the security on that? Because if that falls in the hands of Epping Forest, we
uh,
are open to attack, and I
uh,
don't know what their
or
security is on the
or
perimeter
worse
right
yet,
now.
worse yet, the downs.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not worried about them. They're soft.
Yeah.
When they came to you to think about taking over the nature program and then ultimately following some legends at the camp, you were already pretty busy. Did it cross your mind that your hands were already full, or were you just like, "Yep, next up"?
Yeah, now I can multitask and just integrate it in.
Uh,
I'm going to have the base, teaching job, and then I'm going to have, what am I doing this summer? And when I was here, like in Kansas, I remember I was the parts puller for the largest private off-road truck assembly line, to where I would pull parts for an automotive assembly line, or I would clear land on a farm. Uh, and then here in Maryland, I would work with, I would do things in the Army, like special projects over the summer. So when Dolly Baker didn't want to do nature anymore. At that time, Maureen Klepper was the activities person in charge of the camp. So she offered me the job, and I like the idea of like walking to work
Yeah,
and getting paid about almost as much as army pay, and then I because I wanted to have it. Real world experiences, for our kids, then, we became mission oriented to where we would tip into saving the bay.
yeah, and the river.
can you say something about the chain of command, whether working for a school system or working in the military or working in a camp? Like, because 'cause you've been the top of
Oh,
the
yeah.
food chain and,
Yeah.
but you've also had bosses.
Yeah. Well, from the military, you're going to have your captain, let's say, and whatever he says, you're doing it, you know, you know, not only the expectation, but special forces environment beyond expectation. You're going to, even if it's a staff product, it's going to be a polished staff product, and you're going to deliver it beyond expectation and faster than whatever the deadline was posted on the mission. And so following direct orders is there's just no question you're going to make a max effort on that. And then coming back into school, um, many of my peers, what I would regard as a direct order from the principal, were just suggestions that you might follow or you might not. And so the civilian chain of command, or lines of authority were, you know, in my mind, a bit slovenly. And then in Sherwood, it's because not only do you love the place that you're serving, but you don't want to be embarrassed by doing something dumb or making a mistake. There's pressure, to excel because that's those are the expectations of the community. And so, you know, I was always highly motivated in the Army to follow the order, and I was always highly motivated in Sherwood not to fail or not to be excellent.
Yeah.
You're retired and whatever retirement means for you, because I know you're still very busy and very active.
Oh yeah.
I see a lot of books in the background. What kind of stuff do you like to read, and what are you doing with your time today?
I have projects today, and also my children live with me, and so I am a full-time grandfather. Uh, my grandfather name is G Daddy,
Oh, that's solid.
and so
Ty, take that one off the list. You can't use that
yeah,
anymore.
so they're in training, with me. We do adventures together, and so providing a rich, environment for my grandkids is probably my number one priority. I still love serving Sherwood, but I do it behind the scenes and
Hmm.
individually. Currently, we're renovating the 1991 nature trail, which had fallen into disrepair, and so it's about halfway done. And I'm even using an idea that I think Ty, you came up with,
Oh
that
God.
along the trail part that parallels the road where all the roots are. If you're wondering what's that big pile of wood chips out at the confidence course, that's to spread it over, which I think Bart Key had told me that when you were president, you wanted to try that to try to level it out. So
Yeah.
we are we've finally gotten around to doing that, and it will be part of this renovation. And the other thing with time, so I do projects, I do my grandkids, books that I'm reading. I know this is going to sound odd, but I'm reading right now Uncle Tom's Cabin,
Oh, wow.
and um, uh, I people always, either that there's all kinds of, political sentiments around it. So sometimes I think, well, I'm going to read it for myself. And it is a marvelous book. I can see how it would have been a spark in the American Civil War in its admonishment of the slave trade. But there is a chapter with little Eva St. Clair, who dies of consumption. She must be 8 or 9, but treated her slave help, or her father's slave help, as humans and respected them. And I mean, it could make you cry. And this is a a book that is written in the 19th century, and just the alliteration, and I'm really amazed, at the book. And then a second book that I read from time to time, where I do a chapter or pages, is Storm of Steel, which is World War One warfare, but it's from the German private wrote it,
Hmm.
so it gives you a whole different perspective. And when you compare it to something like All Quiet on the Western Front, it's really amazing of how similar their suffering was, and you know, their their view of the other side. So I,
You're busy.
yeah, so those are the books that I would pick up to read, and I and then I did about a third of what is it, On the Road, Jennifer Klepper's book.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yep. Yep.
So when I go to Army medical appointments, with the VA, I'll take her book, where even though your appointment might be 8:30, it could be later.
Yep.
Right. So you're ready.
Now, you are also a big supporter of people who are active duty now, especially people
Yeah.
from our community. So how do you help them out? How do you stay in touch with them? How do you keep a relationship with them?
Well, when I was camp director, we did treats for troops
Mhm.
where if I got your address, and we would have to know you. You would have to be from Sherwood Forest, or if someone from Sherwood gave me your name.
Uh-huh.
Once a month, we would send you treats. And I remember when Sherwood sent me treats, it was just great. And and I'm pretty sure with everyone, it works the same way. The box comes in and it's pretty beat up. It looks like Ace Ventura delivered it. And um, then basically, I would take the stuff that I really liked, and then the people that worked directly with me, then they would get a chance, and then it would go down to the lower enlisted, and then anything left over would go out to the coffee pot. And so, we probably did maybe over the 13 years that we did treats for troops. Um, um, we always had 4 or 5 uh, guys or gals. We would send things out to Emily Mellon on our boat, or Andrew Gonzalez. We sent him like a 5 iron and 100 golf balls to smack off the stern of the boat. So we did special stuff.
That's great.
It seems like the camp program has a pretty substantial amount of people who went into the military. I mean, I can think of
Oh
3
yeah,
former campers who are going to
yeah,
buds this year. Like,
yeah.
it must teach you something to, I guess, be proud of your country and also, pitch in.
Yes. Yeah, I think, Sherwood is patriotic,
Uh-huh.
and I'm always impressed with uh, our campers who step up and serve.
So to that point, though, we always do different challenges throughout the year, and with the 250th anniversary of our country, we're reaching out to people and talking about what America means to them. So I'm going to put you on the spot. You
Sure.
talked about the patriotism that you saw as a kid, then you saw it put it into action, and you see it after the fact. What does it mean to you?
Um, well, I love America. Uh, I love the idea that we know the instant moment that we were born on the 4th of July, that we just didn't, like most European countries, somehow evolve out of the ooze. I like that, that I like that number one. Number two, even though things are so polarized today, I I do like the idea of freedom, to where I can go to any church I want. I can criticize the president of the United States. My God, uh, where you have the ultimate executive authority. Even though I think a lot of people take it too far, just to have the freedom to do that, to come and go as you please, to live in a place like Sherwood, to where the freedom is, I mean, maximized, that you can have opportunity, that if you are entrepreneurial and you dare to take a risk, you dare to be great, you have your shot. And I just, I am, when Barb and I have been traveling a lot um, since our retirement, and like we went to Japan for a couple of weeks for a wedding. This spring, we did a road trip through Eastern Europe, and we've done, adventures in the Bible lands or as far away as Bora Bora. But I always, after 2 weeks, I'm ready to come home.
Yeah.
Even though these are exotic places, I don't want to live in them. I want to come home to my country, and and it's worth fighting for. And so, I'm proud to be an American, but the number one feature is the freedom. And um, it's just you the words will strain and crack that are beyond just plain words of love of country.
Okay, well, that was well said.
Yeah, that's
That was really
perfect.
well said.
And you never
Yeah.
know, maybe one of those kids that you said was a Patrick Henry will be the one that fights to preserve
Yeah.
that freedom,
Yeah.
you know?
And the thing with the Patrick Henry metaphor
Uh-huh.
is that, yes, you are going to discipline Patrick Henry,
Yeah.
but you don't want to drive that spirit of independence and rebelliousness out of him, because the country may need that guy one day.
Yeah.
See, and that's why we are pro bullying on this.
No, we're not.
We are.
Yeah, we are.
I am.
Just in the correct way.
Okay. All right. Well,
Well, that was
Billy,
awesome.
this is awesome. Billy,
Yeah.
you've been great. Thank you for doing this. Thanks for everything you've done for the country and Sherwood and for the podcast. So really appreciate it.